Okay, welcome back. We are continuing our little series on melody writing, and in this video we are going to look at doing scalic melodies. Scalic, the term comes from scale, and very simply it means basically running from one note to the next up and down your scale. I'm using C major, that's C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then we'd have the octave of C. On the keyboard we should be more than familiar with what that sounds like. Missed! Okay, and then we get the C at the end. Right, sorry, I'm just thinking of what a pillock I am. Right, there are many famous scalic melodies. We have the world's dullest national anthem. And you can see there that we are mostly just going from one note in the scale to the note adjacent to it, either ascending, going up, or descending, going down. It is perfectly acceptable to repeat a note. There may be the occasional leap. Here is a third down to B. We leap now, but this is an art, not a science. The overall fit for this is we are going from one note to the next in the scale, to the note adjacent in the scale, so we call it a scalic melody. Right, here are two ways that you can use your scales to write a melody. Alright, and we've got this first one here for you. So we started with, I'm going to get rid of this for the time being, it'll come back in again in a minute. Whoops, we started with a really naff chord tone melody. Wasn't very pleased with this at all. Okay, it just bounced around too much, so we reduced it down. We just used chord fragments instead. Okay, that's much better. It's not jumping around all over the place. It sounds much more cohesive. Now what I've done is I've cut and paste that down to here. Okay, and I've tried to use some passing notes. Okay, now passing notes sounds incredibly complicated. It just means to move from one note to the next in the scale. Now I had 3 E's in a row here, so this is kind of a passing note. It sort of drops down from the E, part of the chord. This D is not part of the chord, but it's okay to move through it. It's going to be dissonant, but it's going to be a soft dissonance, and it's going to go away very quickly. Here we have got a properly passing note here. This is just one note in the chord, and then this is just stepping down to the next note in the chord. We could really have another passing note in there as well, but that's another story. Here we have the A phrase again. When it was originally stated I went to a D, so I thought, hey, let's go crazy, let's just go up instead. So I went to the next note up in the scale, and then here we have a proper passing note. This is over a G chord, if you remember. So we have the D from chord 5, we have the B from chord 5, and we just ever so quickly pass through the note that's in between, and then it resolves nicely on the C at the end. Right, what's that sound like? Okay, I'm really happy with that. These notes, they're not part of the chord, but they are part of the scale, so that's one of the reasons why they do work. And if you are just passing through them, if you're just treating them as a stepping stone from one note in the chord to the next, it's absolutely fine. Okay, so that works really well. That is the absolute basics on doing passing notes. There is a slightly more advanced way of doing things. and I'm just going to cut and paste this down so you can hear it. So here it comes down. Okay, now I'm going to mute that last version that we heard. So going back to my chord tones. Now if you're feeling slightly more advanced, what you can do with some of these melodies is actually start on a note that's not in the chord, because that instantly creates some tension which you then resolve. There are more complex ways of doing this as well, but we're just going to stick to the notes in our scale. So just to remind you, C major is the order of notes, our key that we are working in. So I can hit any of these notes here. I could randomly just jump around. Okay, for instance, B's nowhere near this little cell at the beginning. I'll go back so you can see it. Right, so this is a great way of sounding crap. Okay, it's too unrelated, it's too big a jump. Okay, but F is slightly, so it's not in the chord, but it's going to resolve ever so quickly. It's just about okay. What happens if we approach this note from underneath? I quite like that. So there, you could try doing the outside and in, and this comes from my limited knowledge of jazz harmony. If you are playing with the chord tones and just using the scale, jazzers will call that a chord playing in, and then when you start using all the fancy chromatic stuff they do, they call that playing out. Alright, so I'm just sort of borrowing that terminology here. This is outside of the chord and then going in. Let's see if we can repeat that all the way through. That note there is the 7th in the chord, so it's technically a little bit outside. I'm going to repeat my shape here, because remember we're trying to create these little structures. So we've got A phrase, and then I'm going to make this in a C. It's not in the chord, but I'm just trying to copy that shape of just like a step up each time. You might come up with a different solution, but that little characteristic keeps coming back. It should make it sound cohesive. Okay, and that's not too bad at all. Alright, so at the one way of doing a melody is to use passing notes. Arrange your chord tones first and then see if there are little journeys between the notes, so you're just stepping between them. I'll give you the best example of that one, which is there. D's part of the chord, B's part of the chord. I just step through C. It's a passing tone, a stepping stone between two chord tones. If you're feeling slightly more advanced, try going outside of the chord and then resolving it into a chord tone. Alright people, practice your art and your craft will come. See you again soon.